Not only do kids need both parents and specifically fathers, but they also need mothers who know the kids need fathers. All right, so I'm going to start with this video here, which I found quite disturbing, and I'll let you listen to it and you can hear why I find it so disturbing.
It's like there's no hope. At this point, you just gotta just get your bag. You feel me? Have your kids, girl, and secure
like that.
your bag.
Hope is a nigga.
So she's talking basically about how, there's no hope for quote unquote black love. So get your money, then have some kids, and then do the best you can do after that. Take another listen.
It's like there's no hope. At this point, you just gotta just get your bag. You feel me? Have your kids, girl, and secure
like
your
that.
bag.
Hope is a nigga out there.
So basically, you just get your money, and then after you get your money, have some kids, and then figure it out the best way that you know how to. And that's kind of becoming like the new kind of MO, I suppose. And look, this is another TikTok here, and this is you can see this is apparently this is LGBTQ lady, and we don't really need the music for this, but basically says that she finds a really good looking guy, and she's found the father of her kids, and now she needs to find a wife to raise the kids with, right? Yeah, so you can hear the romantic music, but basically she's like, oh wow, I found a very good looking sperm donor, so I'll just have the kids with him, and then after I have a kid with him, then I'll find my wife and we'll raise the kids together. So again, we're seeing how this kind of idea that the father is kind of a luxury or that's not necessary for the child, and once you've procured the genetics, you can basically finish off the job of parenting by yourself. Now, these first two videos are causes for the effect that you're going to see in this next video. And to be honest with you, this video actually is kind of sad. This video kind of saddens me. But you guys see it. So this is a 6-7-year-old boy. Now, I mean, how does the 6 or 7-year-old boy learn how to do something like this?
Father.
Like, how does a 5-6-year-old kid learn this? The only way they can learn this is either they're watching it with their parents, or with his mother, or he's actually seeing his mother do this. And this is a young boy, and not only is it a young boy, but you see a second young boy peek from the back, right? So if in fact these are two brothers, there's no, heterosexual male that's going to allow this kind of behavior. No, you would never. Oh, man. But this is kind of what happens when you see the first two TikToks where you see the skip the steps, they don't need a man, I'm going to raise them the way that I see fit to. This is the effect that you get. Now, I'm going to actually go back in the time machine, because if you're not aware of a gentleman named Jawanza Kunjufu, he wrote a series of books. One of his books was called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, and this is 35 years ago. And you're going to hear principles in this speech, which I'll make this available in the description. But you'll hear he's speaking to ails of the community 35 years ago that are more poignant now than ever before.
Black male figures, and I think it makes a big difference come grade 4.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's the major reason. And let me now give my first position. I sincerely believe that only men can make boys men. Now don't misquote me. I didn't say that a single female parent or female teacher cannot rear or educate her child. But she need not do that by herself. What she calls upon her father, her brother, an uncle, a male neighbor, a nephew, a co-worker, there needs to be some men in our children's lives. I want you to explain to me how a boy is going to grow up to be a man if he's never seen any.
Now, this speaks to the first 3 TikToks that we saw, right? These are, the first 2 were, women who were thinking, oh, I can raise a woman, or I can raise a boy to be just fine, but they're going to grow up in environments where that father, that invested guy is not going to be there.
In order to be anything, you must see it first. Remember in the earlier workshop, and I'll go through this very quickly, from the University of Michigan, we wanted to find out what the major influence on children. We said 1950, it was home, school, church, peer group, and television. And then we gave you 1980. Home was still number 1, peer group in the number 2 position, television 3, school dropped down to number 4, church last on the list. Let's go back to my statement. My statement said that only men can make boys men. Now let's see where black boys are going to find men. Let's first of all look at his home. 62% of all black children live.
Now see, remember now, he's doing this in the 1980s. And now you got to take church, you got to cross that off the list because church is not there. Most people aren't going to church. And if you're talking about even like home, I mean, we know the numbers. There are a lot of young boys not growing up in homes with any father figure. And even if you talk about peer groups, you're talking about basically, I mean, people that are growing up in similar situations, but he's going to go through this.
In a single-run household. It's a very good chance he would not find a man here. I'm going to hold off on the streets and drop down to television. Can you name me 5 positive adult black men on television outside the news? And you can't name Cosby because this show just started. Name me 5.
Now this is really interesting because this is when we had the Cosby Show and almost right after it we had Different World, which was one of the first times that there was a positive image of, black men on television, right? Now you fast forward to like 2022 and you tell me how many images are at least as good as Cosby Show on television right now. And he's going to go through television and school and church, but we pretty much understand that there aren't a lot of those positive, images out there because, I mean, just turn on your television. You can see it. Now, let's move forward.
They're taught to bring home the bacon. Well, I say of the vegetarian to bring home the fruit and the vegetables. In other words, to bring home the money. Ronald Reagan knows this. Rockefeller knows this. That the best way to destroy black men is to deny them the opportunity to work. You know what I'm getting at, because Bill Moyers didn't tell you that was Vanishing Black Family documentary.
Okay, so if you're not aware, he's referring to the Bill Moyers documentary with the young ladies in Chicago, and basically there was a scene in there where there's a round table of them, and they basically said that they didn't need a child, or didn't need a husband or a man to raise their children. And this would have actually probably been within the same year or at least a year before previous to this speech.
1 of every 3 marriages in this country, black or white, ends in a divorce in 18 months. Now you see, it used to be if you got a divorce, something was wrong with you. But when you have a stat this high, something must be going on in our society. I now want to explain what that is.
Now, this is actually really interesting because he starts getting into the fact that there's a bigger issue at play, and this is 35 years ago.
When America believed in agriculture, America believed in extended family. When America believed in the factory, industrialism, America believed in the nuclear family. But now that America believes in the computer, now America believes in a single parent family. Make sure you see my analysis. When the economy changed, the family structure changed.
Now, we know from our experience that this is 100% true. We know it's 100% true. I don't need no man. If you have a sit-down job with a computer, you cannot pretend like that you're not aware of that. I mean, we know that that's out there. We know that.
There was more than love in these relationships. There was some money involved here. Our grandparents worked the fields together, had economic reason to stay together, and so they did. In a factory, man works in factory, woman takes care of children. Economic reason again to stay together. But in this new economy, where you now have women working just as much, if not more, than men, you now hear women telling men, I don't need you. Got my own job. Do what I want to do when I want to do it. And we are now doing it very well and by ourselves. You know the #1 song in America a couple of years ago, Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. If you want to be with me, you got to have a job. It's all about money. All about money. When the economy changed, the family structure changed. And so now we have a lot of people making plenty of money and lonely. That place money.
Now we definitely know that's the case. All you have to do is, open up social media and you can see that everywhere.
Money before family. You see, black men want to do what white men do. Buy their family a house in the suburbs, 2 cars, and once a year go down to Orlando for Disney World on vacation. And when black men can't do that, they don't feel they're worthy enough to stay. Now you see, the problem is there are 2 responses black women can give to black men when they're out of work. Now the first response some women say is, well, if you ain't working, you got to go. If you ain't working, you got to go. That's the mistake. Because black men don't hire nor fire, nor control the means of production.
So again, this is a long video and I can't make it too long, but what he basically is alluding to is the fact that when we have an evolving economy and you basically have, men that are struggling or men that aren't performing, at an economic level that's competitive, either you're going to work with the guy or you're going to say that you don't need him, right? And so, we've heard that, but there's so much goodness in this video. We're going to skip forward a little bit because I think he's going to get to the kind of the birth. I'm not going to spoil it.
Their daughters.
We come to that, Gwen. Matter of fact, I think it's probably the next point. Matter of fact, it is. Praise the Lord. Let's go to the next point. See, we were looking at the active conspirators, and we were looking at what the effect that causes on us in terms of male behavior. And we may not be able to control or to change Reagan, Rockefeller, Weinberger, but your question we can change. We can look at some mothers. And I said,
now, he's about to start talking about the birth of the Pookies and the Ray Rays and how they're created.
It's some, not all. The rumor is that some mothers raise their daughters and love their sons. My boy always loved his mama. 40 years of age, still went home with you. That needs to stop. Your boy is not yours. He is a future husband, a future father, and needs to be raised that way. Now, what do I mean by raised? Teach your son how to cook, to make up his own bed, to clean up his own bathtub ring because you raised your daughter. On the honor roll every marking period. Goes to church with you every Sunday, and she can cook, sew, iron, and clean all, but then we have your son. Ain't never seen an honor roll. He plays basketball all evening long. Never goes to church and can't boil a hot dog.
Now, what's interesting about what's interesting here is that a lot of young men, and I would say a lot of passport brothers in particular, a lot of SYSBM brothers, if you grew up either with your father or with a really strong male presence of a role model, you can understand that that person made you get up. They made you make the bed. They made you do for yourself. They made you not make excuses. And when you grow up in that kind of situation, this kind of idea is foreign to you. I'm going to actually rewind this back because the things he's talking about here about not being able to boil a hot dog, sitting home at church, from church, getting really nice shoes without earning them. That's an idea that's foreign to a lot of men that grew up with their fathers or with a strong male role model. But if you are quote unquote Pookie Ray Ray,
teach your son how to cook, to make up his own bed, to clean up his own bathtub ring because you raised your daughter. On the honor roll every marking period. Goes to church with you every Sunday, and she can cook, sew, iron, and clean all, but then we have your son. Ain't never seen an honor roll. He plays basketball all evening long. Never goes to church and can't boil a hot dog. The rumor is we have some, not all, raising their daughters and loving their sons. Now I know the historical reason. The historical reason is our societies always try to destroy black men. The lynchings. So black mothers always want to overprotect their sons. What's the reason today? I know the KKK is on the rise, but what's the reason today? Is it because your own black man didn't stay? You now replaced your man with your son?
Uh-oh. Is he talking about son husbands? Because that's what it sounds like to me. That sounds like Jawanza Kunjufu is talking about son husbands in 1987. 1987, 35 years ago. He's diagnosing son husbands.
Your son is not yours. He's a future husband, a future father, and needs to be raised that way. Quit telling these 9-year-old boys they the man of the house. Ain't no 9-year-old boy ready to be no man of the house. But because you told him that, he now begins to wonder. When you then bring over your man for the evening, Mom, I thought I was the man of the house. Why are you bringing him over? You can't have it both ways. If he's going to be the man of the house, quit bringing your boyfriend over on Saturday nights. You know what's sad, though? These brothers think what they can do with their mamas, they can do with their teacher,
Yes.
their coach, and everybody else. In other words, living at home with you in a $100 pair of gym shoes, $80 pair of a Gucci handbag. In other words, these boys have mastered how to manipulate their mama.
And if they can manipulate their mother, guess who else they can manipulate? Who else can they manipulate? Think about that. If they can manipulate their mother, then guess who else they can manipulate to get what they want?
And they think what they can do with you, they can do with everybody else. Only to find out what you let them get away with, no one else does. In other words, 90% of all teenage pregnancy programs.
Now, you know what? You know, we can keep it going right here actually. But he's talking about how the Pookies and Ray Rays, those guys who grow up and they don't have that accountability male figure in their lives, they learn how to manipulate. They get good at manipulating, and I should say get good at manipulating women, right? And especially good at manipulating women who are accustomed to son husbandry, right? Now, the way he puts a cap on that, at least for this video, he puts a cap on it, is that he's going to explain how responsibility needs to be taught to young men, okay?
Counsel to women. We have teenage pregnancy running rampant. But as far as the last time I looked, it took 2 to make a baby. But 90% of the programs let the brothers off the hook. The real question is, who is going to teach black boys to be responsible? And you don't start when he makes a baby. In other words, the real question is, who's going to teach black boys to be responsible for his personal hygiene, for his clothes, for his chores, for his room, for his siblings, for his allowance, for his studies, for his toys, for his schedule, and then his sex life.
Now, what he's talking about here is what it takes to raise a man. This is him detailing right from the beginning. This is what it takes to raise a man. And if you don't have these things in place, you're raising a son husband, you're raising a Pookie, because they're not being raised to deal with accountability and how to deal with being responsible.
You don't start responsibility at 16. It starts very early. For example, when I was growing up, my father opened up a mutual fund account for me. And every year on my birthday, he explained to me, this is how much money you have in your account. But if you make a baby, all your money is going to take care of your child. Should it be any different? If I enjoy making it, should I also take care of it? So my oldest son, who was 15, I've been doing the same thing with him, the 9-year-old and the 15-year-old. So he told me last year, he said, Daddy, this money looks so good to me. I've just decided I'm not ever making me a baby. I'm keeping all my money to myself. But
now, if you don't think that is not a tie-in to what Passport Brothers are doing, you are not paying attention. The overwhelming number of Passport Bros are guys who do not have children. They're not tied down. They're not Pookies and Ray Rays. They're guys who go to work. They're taking care of their responsibilities. Listen again, because he basically said he taught his son responsibility by teaching him that, just like he was taught, this is your account. This is how much money you have to account for. If you get someone pregnant, you lose all of that money. Here.
So he told me last year, he said, Daddy, this money looks so good to me. I've just decided I'm not ever making me a baby. I'm keeping all my money to myself. But the point is, the boy understands responsibility. He understands if I make a baby, you will take care of it.
Now, we talk about SYSBM. We talk about all of those. We talk about, the Save Community Black Men, all that stuff. Listen, the point he just made here is simple. The guys who are responsible, that did it the right way, when they play their cards the right way, they can basically say, I have played my cards this way, so this is the decision I'm going to make. And his 15-year-old son says, I don't want to have a baby. Now, he's 15, but the point is, if you're responsible, you learn how to take care of responsibilities as a grown person, then yes, you can make the best decisions for you in the future. So when we hear a lot of this SYSBM versus the SY Save Your Community Black Men, there is a community of black men that are broken. We know that they're broken. They were raised without a strong male figure who taught them accountability and responsibility. And because of that, they've, become son husbands, if you will, and they're emotional and they can't, act in a responsible manner. And what does the beginning of that look like? Well, beginning of that looks like let's see. The beginning of that looks like what? Looks like this, doesn't it? Looks like this, doesn't it? This is the beginning of a son husband. This is what a son husband looks like. Now, you're telling me that a strong man in that home that's got this kid sitting, doing his homework every day, you think that this kid is going to be acting a fool and not being responsible? Of course not. So I wanted to speak to this fact that not only are men in search of, good mates and good wives or whatever have you in terms of SYSBMers, passport bros, but men not only need women who, are going to allow them to be fathers, but know that fathers present matters. You cannot raise healthy children without a mother and a father. You need both. And when you see guys that are getting on these planes and getting these passports, they're looking for women who understand the value of a man in the home. That simple. Not people who say it's, I can do it by myself. I can raise a boy by myself. I don't need a man, because we know from experience that that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. When you get women trying to raise boys by themselves, they're doing stuff like this at 6 years old. Anyways, guys, I would like to say thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and please comment, and feel free to comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care, guys.